The Boeing whistleblowers who spoke. Then died. 2 men, 2 whistleblowers. Same lawyer, same company, both dead within 2 months. John Barnett spent 32 years building his career at Boeing, only to watch safety standards crumble before his eyes. Joshua Dean tried to fix the problems from the inside at Spirit AeroSystems. Both spoke up. Both paid the ultimate price. One found with a gunshot wound in a hotel parking lot during his own lawsuit deposition. The other, a healthy 45-year-old, dead from a sudden aggressive infection. Coincidence? Corporate retaliation? Or something far more sinister? This is a story that Boeing hoped would never be told. The man who knew too much. John Barnett was not a troublemaker. He was a company man, born and raised in Louisiana. He joined Boeing in 1987 with dreams of building the safest aircraft in the world. For 3 decades, he climbed the ranks, becoming a quality manager at Boeing's North Charleston facility in South Carolina. Charleston, with its humid subtropical climate, historic architecture, and sprawling industrial complexes, became his home. The Boeing plant there, massive and modern, stretched across hundreds of acres near the airport. This was where the Dreamliner, the 787, was assembled, the pride of American aviation. Or so they said. Barnett believed in the work. He believed in the mission. Every rivet, every wire, every system had to be perfect because lives depended on it. Thousands of passengers would trust these machines at 35,000 feet. But by 2010, something changed. Production quotas became more important than quality checks. Managers started pushing workers to cut corners, to ignore defects, to keep the assembly line moving no matter what. Barnett began finding problems, serious problems, defective oxygen systems that might fail during an emergency, metal shavings left near electrical wiring, debris that could cause catastrophic fires mid-flight. He documented everything. He filed reports. He followed the rules. He went through the proper channels. And he was ignored. His supervisors told him to stop making trouble. They told him the problems were minor. They told him he was overreacting. But Barnett knew better. He had seen the test results. He had read the engineering reports. These were not minor issues. These were potential death sentences for everyone who stepped onto those planes. In 2017, Barnett made the hardest decision of his life. He became a whistleblower. He filed a complaint with the Federal Aviation Administration. He went public with his concerns. He testified that Boeing was prioritizing speed over safety, that managers were retaliating against workers who raised quality issues, that the 787 Dreamliner had serious defects that could lead to disaster. Boeing's response was swift and brutal. Barnett was transferred. His responsibilities were stripped away. Colleagues who once respected him began avoiding him in the hallways. He was labeled a disgruntled employee, a liar, someone with an axe to grind. His reputation, built over 32 years, was shredded in months. But Barnett did not back down. He retired in 2017 and immediately filed a lawsuit against Boeing for retaliation. The legal battle consumed his life. 7 years of depositions, legal fees, stress that ate away at his health and his relationships. His family watched him struggle. His mother saw the toll it took on her son. But Barnett kept fighting because he believed that telling the truth mattered more than his own comfort. Charleston became a prison. The city he once loved now felt like enemy territory. Everywhere he went, he saw Boeing. The plant, the planes taking off overhead, the billboards celebrating the company's success. And he knew the truth they were hiding. By early 2024, the case was finally moving forward. Barnett was scheduled for depositions in Charleston. He drove in from Louisiana, checked into a Holiday Inn near the plant, and prepared to give his testimony. He was tired but determined. His lawyer said they were making progress. The evidence was strong. Justice might finally be within reach. On March 9th, 2024, John Barnett did not show up for his deposition. His lawyers called his phone. No answer. They went to the hotel. His truck was in the parking lot, and inside that truck, they found John Barnett's body. A gunshot wound to the head, a gun in his hand, dead at 62 years old. The second voice. While John Barnett was fighting his battle in Charleston, another man was discovering the same ugly truth about Boeing. just in a different location. Joshua Dean lived in Wichita, Kansas, a city known for its aviation industry. Wichita, flat and sprawling across the Great Plains, had been building airplanes for generations. Spirit AeroSystems, one of Boeing's large suppliers, operated massive factories there, producing fuselages for the 737 MAX. Dean was 45 years old, married, a father, and a former quality auditor at Spirit. He was not a veteran like Barnett. He had only been with the company a few years. But what he lacked in seniority, he made up for in integrity. Dean took his job seriously. His role was to inspect the work, to catch defects before they became disasters. And he found them. In 2022 and 2023, Dean documented serious manufacturing defects on 737 MAX fuselages, improperly drilled holes, misaligned parts, quality control failures that violated Boeing's own specifications. These were not cosmetic issues. The 737 MAX was already infamous. 2 crashes in 2018 and 2019 had killed 346 people. The planes were grounded worldwide. Boeing promised reforms, promised better oversight, promised that safety would come first. Dean's discoveries proved those promises were lies. The same systemic problems that caused the MAX crashes were still happening. The same pressure to meet production targets. The same culture of ignoring defects. Dean did what he was supposed to do. He filed internal reports. He documented the problems with photos and detailed descriptions. He alerted his supervisors. Spirit AeroSystems responded by firing him in April 2023. They claimed his termination was for other reasons, but Dean knew better. He had been labeled a troublemaker, just like Barnett. He had violated the unspoken rule. Do not slow down production, no matter what you find. Unemployed and blacklisted in industry, Dean could have walked away. He could have taken his severance, found another job, kept his head down, but he did not. He contacted Brian Knowles, the same lawyer representing John Barnett. Dean filed a complaint with the FAA. He became a whistleblower. The parallels between Dean and Barnett were eerie. Same lawyer, same company, essentially, since Spirit built parts exclusively for Boeing. Same retaliation, same determination to fight back. They never met in person, but they were brothers in arms. 2 voices crying out in the wilderness, warning the world that Boeing's planes were not safe. Dean's life in Wichita became difficult. The aviation community there was tight-knit. Everyone knew everyone. Word spread that he had turned against Spirit, against Boeing. Job interviews dried up. Friends distanced themselves. His family felt the strain. But Dean pressed forward. He gave interviews. He provided documents to investigators. He refused to be silenced. Then, in March 2024, John Barnett died. Dean heard the news like everyone else. Suicide, they said, a self-inflicted gunshot. Dean did not believe it. He knew what Barnett was going through, because he was going through it too. And Barnett had been winning his case. Why would he kill himself right before justice? Dean kept his concerns private. He focused on his own fight. But 2 months later, everything changed. 2 months of terror. What do you think so far? Do you believe these deaths were coincidences? Or is there something darker at play here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. March 9th, 2024, started like any other day in Charleston. The sun rose over the harbor, the historic streets of downtown filled with tourists. And at a holiday near the Boeing plant, a housekeeper made a discovery that would send shockwaves around the world. John Barnett was found dead in his truck. The driver's side window was down. A gunshot wound to the right temple. A gun resting near his body. The Charleston Police Department arrived. They processed the scene. Within hours, they issued a preliminary finding, apparent suicide. Barnett's family was devastated. But more than that, they were confused. Barnett's mother, Vicky Stokes, spoke to reporters. She said her son would never take his own life. He was looking forward to finishing his deposition. He was hopeful about his case. He had plans for the future. Just days before, he had been in good spirits. Nothing in his behavior suggested suicidal thoughts. His lawyer, Brian Knowles, echoed those sentiments. Barnett had been fighting for 7 years. He was so close to the finish line. The evidence was strong. Boeing was on the defensive. Why would he give up now? Why would he do it in a hotel parking lot, in the middle of his own legal proceedings? Questions piled up. Why was there no suicide note? Why did Barnett not call anyone before allegedly taking his life? Why did the police rush to a suicide conclusion so quickly? Requests for autopsy reports went unanswered. The investigation seemed to close before it even began. Conspiracy theories exploded online. Was Barnett murdered? Was this corporate retaliation? Boeing had billions of dollars at stake. Government contracts, international reputation, stock prices. Would they really let one whistleblower destroy everything? Some pointed to Boeing's history of ruthless business tactics. Others noted the timing, the convenience, the sheer improbability of suicide at that exact moment. But the official story remained suicide, and the world moved on, except for Joshua Dean. He watched the news from Wichita. He saw the reports. He knew Barnett's story because it was his story too, and he could not shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. April passed. May arrived. Dean continued his life, now marked by paranoia and fear. Was he next? Was he being watched? He confided in close friends about his concerns. But there was no proof, just a gut feeling that danger was closer than it seemed. On May 1st, 2024, Joshua Dean woke up feeling ill. Flu-like symptoms. Fever, chills, fatigue. Nothing unusual for springtime in Kansas. He went to the hospital as a precaution. The doctors ran tests. Within hours, Dean's condition deteriorated rapidly. His breathing became labored. His oxygen levels dropped. He was admitted to the intensive care unit. The infection was aggressive. MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, a bacterial infection resistant to most antibiotics. It spread through Dean's lungs, attacking his respiratory system with terrifying speed. The medical team tried everything. Antibiotics, ventilators, intensive interventions. Nothing worked. Joshua Dean was 45 years old. He had no underlying health conditions. He was active, fit, a marathon runner. Yet within days, his body shut down. On May 2nd, 2024, just 62 days after John Barnett's death, Joshua Dean died. 2 whistleblowers. Same lawyer. Same fight against Boeing. Both dead within 2 months. The official causes, one suicide, one sudden infection. But the coincidence was too stark, too convenient, too impossibly timed to ignore. Brian Knowles, the lawyer who had represented both men, issued a statement. He called the circumstances extremely troubling. He stopped short of accusing Boeing of murder, but his words carried weight. 2 clients, both young enough to have decades ahead of them, both fighting the same corporate giant, both dead in rapid succession. The world began asking questions Boeing did not want to answer. The corporate empire strikes back. Thank you for staying with us this far. What you have seen is only the beginning. The best and the most shocking is still to come. To understand what happened to John Barnett and Joshua Dean, you have to understand Boeing. This is not just any company. This is a cornerstone of American industry, a titan of aerospace, a defense contractor with deep ties to the government. Boeing builds commercial jets that carry millions of passengers every year. It builds military aircraft, satellites, weapon systems. It employs over 170,000 people worldwide. Its annual revenue exceeds $70 billion. But behind the glossy corporate image lies a darker reality. Boeing has a long, documented history of prioritizing profits over safety, of silencing critics, of destroying anyone who dares to challenge the company's practices. The 737 MAX crashes are the most public example. In October 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 crashed into the Java Sea, killing all 189 people on board. In March 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed shortly after takeoff, killing all 157 passengers and crew. Both planes were brand new Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. Both crashes were caused by a flawed automated flight control system called MCOS. Internal Boeing messages, released during investigations, revealed a corporate culture of arrogance and negligence. Employees mock regulators. One message read, This airplane is designed by clowns, who in turn are supervised by monkeys. Another employee admitted to lying to the FAA about MCAS. Boeing had rushed the MAX to market to compete with Airbus, cutting corners on testing and training, hiding critical information from airlines and pilots. 346 people died because Boeing chose speed and profit over safety. The company paid fines, settled lawsuits, and promised reform. But nothing really changed. Whistleblowers began coming forward with new allegations. Sam Solapur, a quality engineer, testified before Congress in 2024 about structural problems with the 787 Dreamliner. He claimed Boeing was taking manufacturing shortcuts that could lead to fuselage breakups mid-flight. He faced retaliation, just like Barnett and Dean. Former employees described a systematic pattern of intimidation. Speak about safety issues, and you will be reassigned. File a complaint, and you will be demoted. Go public, and you will be blacklisted from the industry. Boeing had perfected the art of silencing dissent. And it was not just employees. Boeing wielded enormous political power. It had lobbyists in Washington. It had contracts with the Department of Defense, NASA, airlines around the world. It was too big to fail, too important to the economy, too embedded in the government to be held truly accountable. When Barnett and Dean blew the whistle, they were not just challenging a company. They were challenging an empire with the resources, the connections, and the ruthlessness to protect itself at all costs. Spirit AeroSystems, where Dean worked, announced in 2024 that it would merge back into Boeing. The two companies had separated in 2005, but now Boeing was reacquiring its former subsidiary. The merger would give Boeing even more control over its supply chain, more ability to hide defects, more power to silence critics. And it would eliminate Spirit as a separate entity, erasing the paper trail of Dean's complaints. The timing was suspicious. Dean dies in May. The merger is announced in July. Coincidence? Or consolidation of power and elimination of evidence? Families of the 737 MAX crash victims watched in horror. They had been fighting for justice for years. They wanted Boeing executives held criminally responsible. They wanted real accountability. Instead, they saw whistleblowers dying under mysterious circumstances and the company growing stronger. Boeing's stock price barely flinched. Investors shrugged off the bad publicity. Orders for planes kept coming. The machine kept running. And every day, hundreds of thousands of passengers boarded Boeing aircraft, trusting that the planes were safe, unaware of the defects, the cover-ups, the silenced voices screaming warnings from beyond the grave. The truth they tried to bury. The deaths of John Barnett and Joshua Dean should have triggered massive investigations. Federal agencies should have descended on Boeing. Congress should have held hearings. The public should have demanded answers. Some of that happened, but not enough. Not nearly enough. The Charleston Police Department stood by its finding that Barnett's death was suicide. They released no additional information. No autopsy report was made public. No toxicology results. No detailed timeline of his final hours. The case was closed, filed away, forgotten by everyone except Barnett's family. His mother, Vicki Stokes, refused to accept the official story. She gave interviews, demanding a thorough investigation. She pointed out inconsistencies. Why would her son, a right-handed man, shoot himself in the right temple? Why would he do it in a public parking lot instead of his hotel room? Why was there no note, no final message to his loved ones? Her questions were met with silence. Joshua Dean's death was even more mysterious. MRSA infections, while serious, do not typically kill healthy middle-aged men within days. Dean had no known risk factors. He had not been hospitalized recently. He had no open wounds, no recent surgeries. Where did the infection come from? How did it spread so rapidly? Why did the antibiotics fail so completely? Medical experts noted that MRSA can be weaponized, that infections can be induced deliberately. It is not common, but it is possible. Dean's family asked for a full investigation. They wanted answers. They got vague explanations and closed doors. Brian Knowles, the lawyer for both men, found himself in an impossible position. Two of his clients were dead under suspicious circumstances. He could not prove foul play, but he could not ignore the pattern. He went public with his concerns, carefully choosing his words to avoid defamation lawsuits. He called the deaths troubling and coincidental in a way that raises serious questions. But without evidence, without cooperation from authorities, there was little he could do. Other Boeing whistleblowers watched and took note. Some went into hiding. Some hired private security. Some stopped talking altogether. The message was clear. Speak up, and you might end up like Barnett and Dean. But not everyone was scared into silence. Sam Solopur, the engineer who exposed problems with the 787 Dreamliner, continued to testify. He told Congress that Boeing was putting planes into service with structural defects that could cause catastrophic failures. He presented documents, photos, insider testimonies. He risked everything to tell the truth, and the defects kept appearing. In January 2024, just weeks before Barnett's death, a door plug blew out an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX mid-flight. The plane depressurized at 16,000 feet. Passengers' belongings were sucked out into the sky. Miraculously, no one was killed. The National Transportation Safety Board investigated and found that the door plug had been improperly installed at Boeing's factory. Bolts that should have secured were missing. Another quality control failure. Another near disaster. The Federal Aviation Administration launched audits of Boeing's production lines. They found widespread problems. Missing parts. Improper installations. Inadequate inspections. The same issues Barnett and Dean had been warning about for years. The FAA issued new directives, demanded fixes, threatened consequences. Boeing promised, once again, to do better. But promises mean nothing when the people who expose the truth end up dead. Passengers continued to fly on Boeing planes because they had no choice. Airlines had fleets full of 737s and 787s. Switching to Airbus or other manufacturers would take years and cost billions. So people buckled their seatbelts, said a quiet prayer, and hoped that the whistleblowers were wrong, that the defects were exaggerated, that their flight would not be the one where something went catastrophically wrong. The families of John Barnett and Joshua Dean continue to seek answers. They have filed wrongful death lawsuits. They have demanded independent investigations. They have spoken to journalists, documentarians, anyone who will listen. They refuse to let their loved ones be forgotten, because this story is not just about two men who died. It is about a system that protects corporations at the expense of human lives. It is about regulators who are too weak or too compromised to enforce safety standards. It is about a culture where profits matter more than people, where truth-tellers are punished and wrongdoers are rewarded. John Barnett knew the Dreamliner had defects that could kill passengers. He spoke up and he died. Joshua Dean knew the 737 MAX still had problems years after deadly crashes. He spoke up and he died. Were they murdered? We may never know for certain. The investigations are incomplete. The evidence is hidden. The powerful have closed ranks. But we know this. Two brave men chose courage over silence. They saw the truth and refused to look away. They believed that human lives were more important than corporate profits. And now they are gone. Their warnings remain. Every Boeing plane in the sky carries the weight of their sacrifice. Every passenger who boards one of those aircraft trusts that the problems have been fixed, that the company has learned its lesson, that another disaster will not happen. But until Boeing is held truly accountable, until whistleblowers are protected instead of destroyed, until safety becomes more important than shareholder value, the danger persists. John Barnett and Joshua Dean spoke the truth, and the truth cost them everything. Two men chose courage over silence. They saw the truth and refused to look away. John Barnett and Joshua Dean knew the risks, but they spoke anyway because they believed lives were at stake. Now they are gone, and the questions surrounding their deaths may never be fully answered, but their warnings remain, echoing through every Boeing aircraft that takes the sky. What do you think really happened to these whistleblowers? Was this corporate retaliation taken to its darkest extreme? Or were these truly tragic coincidences? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story impacted you, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell, because there are more untold stories that demand to be heard. And don't miss our next recommended video, where we dive even deeper into the world of corporate secrets and the people who dare to expose them. The truth is out there, and together we will find it.